Okay, gang, back here with my father-in-law, Mr. Jim Albers, formerly of NASA, has an interesting story about the first shuttle landing at Edwards Air Force Base. So tell us about that, Jim.
Right.
So this was the first actual launch. I mean, this is of the
Landing.
Columbia, not the Enterprise, correct?
Yes. This is
Okay.
the
STS1.
STS1, the first landing at Air Force. Anyway, I think it was President Reagan was the president at the time, and I was one of the managers there at Edwards Air Force Base at the time. And so what they decided to do is have the PR person, public relations person for the Air Force, essentially handle the president and his staff. And they asked me during this shuttle landing that could I take care of 6 congressional wives. Okay. So they introduced me to these 6 women, and I had a van and picked them up at, I forgot where, someplace. I guess they actually delivered them to me, and they said, these are 6 women that you want to take care of, and we had a VIP location for these 6 ladies. But one of the ladies says, well, before the shuttle landing, could we go shopping? So I said, well, we don't have time to go to Lancaster or Palmdale, which was 30 miles away. The only thing we have is the PX on the base. I said, okay, well, can we go over to the PX on the base? So these 6 ladies insisted on going to the PX before the shuttle landing. And, you know, there's all this hoopla and all these dignitaries around, but I had to take the 6 ladies there, and they, what do you call it? And I said, hey, look, after they were there about 20 minutes, I said, ladies, we don't want to miss this landing, do we? He said, oh, no, we better go. So anyway, I hustled those ladies up there. We got to the VIP landing area, which is actually on top of a building real close to the, you know, the flight line, where they had a fantastic view. And about 5 minutes before the shuttle landing, I had them all in sight. And here comes the shuttle. They said, boy, are we so happy that Jim got us back to see this after they saw it. You know what I'm saying? Because I just could not believe it. I mean, it was so funny, the fact that these ladies wanted to go shopping, and they almost missed the first STS shuttle landing, which was a major milestone within the space program. I thought that was
Oh, that's pretty good. And
kind of humorous.
they thought it was a pretty awesome experience.
They thought it was a pretty good experience there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. I decided that it might be worthwhile for me to get more experience on the space side of the house, you know, like space shuttle operations. So even though the manager that I worked for wasn't too happy me transferring, but they said, well, you have an opportunity to go to the space side of the house and work for this associate administrator for space shuttle operations. And that was quite interesting. So what I did then is, at the time in the 80s, the shuttle was, you know, just kind of getting going at the time. And, you know, we had some shuttle landings at Edwards, which I had the opportunity to go and see. But in the early 80s, we were still, you know, operational within NASA. So some of the things we had to address was, should NASA, I was asked to consider, do we consider running the shuttle program out of the agency, or do we transfer it totally to industry, like Boeing or Lockheed or some other company? At that time, my recommendation, along with the guy that I was working for, the associate administrator, said, no, we're going to continue to do this because of the risks associated with the shuttle. We were not routine enough to hand it off directly to industry. Okay, that was one of the things that we had to look at the time. The other thing that I was doing at the time, I had $300 million of the money from Johnson Space Center, Kennedy Space Center, and Marshall in terms of their space shuttle operations. So what I had to do is go down and review all their programs, again with other more experienced program managers, and then make decisions on where we need changes. And one of the recommendations I made when I was at NASA headquarters in the space shuttle operations as part of the space shuttle program, they were using computers with 1959 technology. And here I was, what, 35 years old or something, and the managers were in their late 50s or 60s. They were surprised this young kid coming in telling us what to do. But anyway, I made a very strong recommendation. You got to upgrade the computers. And if you're willing to do that, we'll actually, make some changes in the money to help you do that. In other words, you may have to take some money out of some other programs, but we think it's important enough that we need to have advanced computer technology with more capability than we could with the old 1960 technology.
Holy cow,
They were
yeah.
larger. We could reduce the weight significantly and have much better, capability by upgrading those. So that's one of the other recommendations I made when I was at NASA headquarters in space shuttle operations, which was really fascinating. The problem that I didn't convince me not to stay in the space side of the house because it was so complex. You had manuals, operating manuals 4 inches thick on procedures they had to follow on every step on the way. It was extremely complex, very complex systems. That from my standpoint, I wanted to get back to aviation after that experience. I mean, I don't mind doing something in space, but I didn't want to stay in the space side only because of the complexity and the risk involved in that activity.
Mm-hmm.